Anand Bihari Prabhu and his team have been doing such an amazing work coordinating these classes. I came to Bhakti about 17 years ago in Pune as some of the devotees distributed a book of Srila Prabhupada and one of his devotees with me and have been around since then. Um, and very grateful for that. Consider myself very fortunate. Of course, I've been associated with the Bhakti Center now since 2015 and just extremely grateful for that as well. But thank you so much for allowing me to share. And as I said, I feel very unqualified. So I seek the blessings of all of you, amazing, sincere souls. Uh, and especially Adi Purusha Prabhu and all the senior Vaishnavas here. Uh, may the right words come from my mouth and may I be a transparent instrument in the hands of my spiritual master as I'm sharing these messages like a postman. So thank you so much, Anand Bihari Prabhu. And I was told the verse for today is from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will recite the verse. Anand Bihari Prabhu, usually do the devotees repeat after, or do I just
No,
recite?
no, you recite everything.
Okay.
You are one of the best reciters I've ever
Uh,
heard.
uh, you're incredibly kind. Yes. So, Srimad Bhagavatam 10.80.43. Itam vidhani anekani vasatam guru vesmani guror anugraha naiva omam purna prashantaye. Translation. Lord Krishna continued, we had many similar experiences while living in our spiritual master's home. Simply by the grace of the spiritual master, a person can fulfill life's purpose and attain eternal peace. There's two verses that follow. Shri Brahmana Uvacha Kim Asmabhir Anivrittam Devadeva Jagadguru Bhavata Satya Kamena Yesham Vaso Gurur Abhut. Translation. The Brahmana said, what could I possibly have failed to achieve, O Lord of Lords, O universal teacher, since I was able to personally live with you, whose every desire is fulfilled, at the home of our spiritual master? Purported by disciples of Srila Prabhupada, Sudama Brahman wisely understands his extraordinary good fortune of having lived with Sri Krishna at the residence of their spiritual master. Thus, whatever external difficulties they experienced were actually an expression of the Lord's mercy to teach the importance of service to the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada renders the learned Brahmana's feelings as follows. Sudama said, my dear Krishna, you are the supreme Lord and the supreme spiritual master of everyone. And since I was fortunate enough to live with you in the house of our Guru, I think I have nothing more to do in the matter of prescribed Vedic duties. The third and the last verse in this series. Yasya chando mayam brahma deha avapanam vibho shreyasam tasya gurusu vasotyanta vidambanam. Translation. O Almighty Lord, your body comprises the absolute truth in the form of the Vedas and is thus the source of all auspicious goals of life. That you took up residence at the school of a spiritual master is simply one of your pastimes in which you play the role of a human being. Purport. Thus ends the purport of the humble servants of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to the 10th canto, 80th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Brahmana Sudama Visits Lord Krishna in Dwarka. We'll just chant the prayers. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातान् सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषः शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining the Srimad Bhagavatam class today. It is my incredible fortune to be with all of you, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity to share. So, this verse is actually one of the most important verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, every verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amala Puran, every verse in Srimad Bhagavatam is in and itself absolute. But this verse and this chapter in particular is very special in the sense that we are seeing the friendly side of the Lord. One of his deepest and closest friends, Sudama, that was a friend to him, one of his best friends since childhood, since the time they studied together in school, is now visiting Dwarka. And the interactions that the Lord is having, the Lord who is the controller of the entire universe, is having with Sudama are at a completely different level. It's almost as if no one would believe that he is the Supreme Lord if he were to just see those interactions that he's having with Sudama. And what the Lord is also emphasizing through this, as this verse then goes on to say in the second and the third part of it, is how incredibly fortunate Sudama and himself, the Lord, are to be in the association and the presence of their spiritual master, who at that time was Sandipani Muni. And actually, if you visit the area of Ujjain or close to Indore in central part of India even today, you will be able to visit the place which was the ashram of Sandipani Muni, where the Lord and all his dear associates and friends studied. So we will see that the Lord, through his example, is basically teaching us and showing us how important it is to take the shelter of the spiritual master. And in fact, the verse goes on to say that simply by the grace of the spiritual master, a person can fulfill life's purpose. And how deep and meaningful that is. If we were to read that again slowly, simply by the grace of the spiritual master, a person can fulfill life's purpose and attain eternal peace. That's literally what all of us are trying to do here. We are trying to perfect our human forms of life. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us the express way to doing that. It's saying just simply take the shelter of the spiritual master. And there is one more um, Leela in which the Supreme Lord himself demonstrates this. If any one of you remember, also in Chaitanya Leela, when the Lord comes in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he does not reveal the Hare Krishna Mahamantra all the way until he meets a spiritual master. When the Lord, in the form of Nimai Pandit at that time in Chaitanya Leela, so Nimai Pandit visits Bodh Gaya, and there in Bodh Gaya is known for one special thing. It has the footprint of Lord Vishnu that's imprinted on a stone. And so the devotees go there, they perform Abhishek, they offer their obeisances and pranams. And so Bodh Gaya is known for that, apart from, of course, knowing Bodh Gaya as one of the founding places for Buddhism. And so when the Lord was there and he saw his spiritual master sitting next to him, and they were worshipping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, that's where there was a very strong determination in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart that I must take shelter of Ishwarapuri as my spiritual master. And as soon as his initiation, and then he approaches Ishwarapuri um, in the following chapters in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then he takes initiation from Ishwarapuri. And as soon as that happens, then he openly starts preaching the Hare Krishna Mahamantra up until the very moment that happens, even though he passes so many years of his youthful life, he hasn't openly revealed the glories of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that shows to us that, here the Lord has taken incarnation in the age of Kali Yuga exquisitely for spreading the holy names of the Lord. And he's waiting for such a long period of time in his own life and example up until he actually meets a spiritual master to demonstrate a simple lesson. He wants to demonstrate the importance of the spiritual master in a sincere spiritual student's life, and that's what he was trying to do. So these are two places where we will see that the Lord himself has very clearly demonstrated how important it is to take the shelter of the spiritual master. And now if we turn the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, um, we will see that across different people and different situations, people in different modes of nature, we will see how taking shelter of spiritual master has benefited these people. As some of you might know, there are three modes of material nature that the Srimad Bhagavatam has described. They are the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness. There is a mode which is above these three, which is the mode of pure goodness or the mode of Shuddha Sattva. So now if we just let's take the example of Narad Muni as a spiritual master. Now let's look at some examples of how people in ignorance were uplifted by a spiritual master. And we see the examples of Mrigari. And so Mrigari was actually a hunter, and he was actually a very vicious hunter. He wouldn't kill the animal fully, he would kill the animal halfway, in a way that the arrow would shoot the animal at different places that wouldn't necessarily kill him, but it would kill the animal slowly. And what Mrigari would do is he would get an extreme amount of sadistic pleasure watching the animals kind of suffer through that condition and then finally eventually die. And so when Narad Muni saw this situation, he was out of his compassionate heart, he was just um, extremely touched in the sense that he felt like this person doesn't really understand what he's doing because that's not the nature of the soul. The nature of the soul is Satchit Anand. The nature of the soul is to serve and to love and to seek love and pleasure. And what this person is doing is the exact opposite of it because of being under the heavy influence of tamogun or ignorance. And so Narad Muni then later on meets this person, Brigari, and then shows him and shows him uh, how his life would be, uh, after this body. And he shows him how he's setting himself up for hellish condition of life because these very animals that he's harming are going to come back and harm him in a brutal way. And so that's like an eye opener from Regari. And he immediately seeks shelter of Narad Muni, falls at his feet. He uh, takes to spiritual life. And the surprising thing is that the transformation is so massive that later on in the same chapter, we see that Narad Muni at a later time visits Mrigari, who is now, of course, taken to the spiritual life. And he sees that there are a few ants that are somehow, crawling under Mrigari's feet. And Mrigari just walks like around them and, in a way that very sensitively, not to even step on any one of the ants. And Narad Muni Narad Muni is actually visiting Mrigari with one of his close friends, Parashar Muni, and he shows Parashar Muni, so this is the same person that would have killed animals at one point and seek sadistic pleasure from that. But now see the power of bhakti has transformed him so much that he doesn't even want to step on a single tiny ant, which people usually can just overlook and step over. And so that's the transformation that bhakti can do in someone's life. And and of course the starting point of that, or sort of the enlightening point of that, is the spiritual master's mercy. In another example, in the same mode of ignorance, we see that there was a thief, uh, and his name was Vali, and he would rob people, and he would steal from them in the forest, and he would just kind of make their situation miserable. Uh, and so when Narad Muni saw him, and he also would kill people after robbing them. So it wasn't just robbing and then letting them go, but he would actually rob them and he would kill them. And so in the Sanskrit, or sort of the place from where he belonged, the word for death is referred to as Mara. It's the two syllables Ma, as in the M, and Ra as in R. So when Narad Muni saw his situation, he was again quite sad to see that. And he said, "Now, what I want you to do is leave everything and just kind of, if you want to take to spiritual life, just keep chanting Mara, 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 like that." And so initially, Wali did not really understand what was going on, but then he was like, "Okay, as a respect to you, Narad Muni, I'm gonna do that." So he kept doing Mara, 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 Mara. And then the Mara actually, as if you can see, if you keep chanting Mara, 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 Ram, it becomes Ram, 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 Ram. And so what ended up happening was this Wali thief, or a murderer, he started chanting Ram, and he chanted so continually and with so much attention that eventually we see in the later parts of Srimad Bhagavatam that he becomes a Maharishi. So there are different stages, just like we have in our modern education system. We have undergrad, then we have the graduate, then we have the PhD, and that sort of thing. Even in the class of rishis, there are different categories. There are rishis, there's maharishis, there's brahma rishis. There are different levels of enlightenment that one can get, and we saw that Vali actually becomes Maharshi Valmiki, and he becomes the teacher and the guru of Lord Ram himself in the later pastimes. And in fact, he's the one that has also written uh, Sri Ramayan, which is the scripture that elaborately glorifies and describes Lord Ram's pastime. So we will see that by the grace of the spiritual master, an ordinary thief on the street has become an enlightened sage who is now writing the glories of the Lord in eloquent scriptures. And so that's only possible by the mercy of the spiritual master. And someone might question, why is that so? And that's primarily because the guru is the external manifestation of Paramatma. He's basically a manifestation of the Lord himself. He's a Chaitya guru, and he's deeply connected with the Lord. And his word is basically a bona fide guru, a true transcendentalist guru will basically speak on behalf of the Lord, and he will speak the Lord's word. He will not compromise on that. And we'll see that if we hear Srila Prabhupada's lectures and tapes, in several of the places Srila Prabhupada emphasizes this one point, that if one has to take shelter of a guru, it better be a bona fide guru, because only a bona fide guru will clearly represent the Lord as he is. And that was the mode of ignorance. Now, coming to the mode of passion, um, just looking at we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, but if we look parallelly at the Bhagavad Gita, the very first verse of Bhagavad Gita, we see a conversation between Sanjay and Dhritarashtra. Now, both of them had the same spiritual master. Interestingly, uh, Sanjay and Dhritarashtra both were students of Vyasadeva. And Srila Vyasadeva happened to visit their kingdom, and he was sharing spiritual wisdom with both of them. Now, these are two students of the same guru. But please note that just because we are a student or a disciple of a guru does not directly make us qualified uh, to attain life's perfection. And we will see that in this example. So Srila Vyasadeva, when he visited the kingdom of Dhritarashtra, he instructed both Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra on the science of war, and how war is detrimental to a human's progress. And Sanjaya was very sincerely hearing what Vyasadeva had to say. And he had one intention in his mind, that he wanted to make spiritual progress. Dhritarashtra, on the other hand, had extremely ulterior motives, and he was thinking about himself. And even though he acknowledges and appreciates what Vyasadeva says, but then he also responds back to Vyasadeva saying that some of it may not even be applicable in my situation, because a king has to go on war, and that's just something Kshatriyas have to do. And there's not many alternatives that can work out around that. And so therefore we see in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita, but just starting with the first chapter, we can see that Sanjay therefore received the mercy of his spiritual master Vyasadeva, to the extent that being in his kingdom, he was able to see exactly what was going on the battlefield of Mahabharata, from where he was. And he was able to see such exquisite details. If you see the way Sanjay has described how both the armies have now stood in front of each other. And he was able to describe the different warriors and the different weapons that they are carrying, and the different animals on which they are sitting, and all those sort of details. We see that he was able to see everything. And not just that, a private conversation between the Supreme Lord Krishna and his dear student and friend Arjuna. Imagine that. It was a personal conversation between the Lord and Arjuna. And Sanjay was able to see all of that, and he was able to hear all of that very, very clearly. And this was possible because he had the mercy of his spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva. Whereas Dhritarashtra, on the other hand, uh, was not only able to not see or feel any of these things, and but he was also not able to understand what was going on in reality, because he challenged and his spiritual master in the wrong way. And of course, a healthy debate is always encouraged. Healthy questioning, inquiring submissively, those things are always encouraged in bhakti. Um, but then what Dhritarashtra did was he completely just threw away the instructions of Vyasadeva, and he was like, I'm good on my own. I don't really need any advice at this point. I'm going to go for war. This is my determination. He went for a war. At the end, of course, we see, unfortunately, he loses all of his sons and everything in the process. He loses his kingdom. Eventually, he has to go as a vanaprastha in the forest. And of course, not just materially are these things degrading, but also spiritually. If you look at it, a person makes light years of advancement by sincerely seeking the shelter. So that's how important the shelter of spiritual masters. And then we look at the mode of goodness. We see the examples of Dhruva Maharaj and Sudama here. So in fact, it is said that Sudama is visiting the Lord. The Sudama had a lot of anxiety and difficult situation going on at his house, because of in his home and family, with maintaining and keeping the upkeep, because of which his wife recommended him to visit the Lord in Dwarka. And it said that as soon as Sudama sees the Lord, all his material distresses are gone right there. And that's how Srila Prabhupada says, when we chant, um, all of our material distresses are gone when we chant, because we are in the association of the Lord. It's just a matter of our feeling it, and we will feel it uh, to the extent we are sincerely chanting. So these are amazing examples. We, in our temples, including the Bhakti Center, we chant the Mangalarati every single morning. And the first thing we chant in the Mangalarati is the Gurvashtakam. And the eighth verse of Gurvashtakam clearly states, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi, which means by pleasing one's spiritual master, one genuinely pleases the Supreme Lord. So these are the examples in the book Bhagavat that we see that have taken shelter. But now one might think that all of these are amazing pastimes, they're great pastimes. But how do I relate to them in my day-to-day life? Or how do I bring them to a conclusion? What do I see as a real life example? Or what do I see as something that I can actually perceive? And so with the person Bhagavat, there is also a book, with the book Bhagavat, there's also a person Bhagavat, which means these are great souls who have lived the life uh, strictly according to the teachings of the Bhagavatam. And in our example, we see very dearly in the life of our dearmost founder Acharya, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In fact, if we were to just focus on one small aspect of all his struggles that he did in the US, one of them was to find a place so he could share the message of Krishna consciousness. And the amount of struggle, so there are eight major failures he had to go through just before he got the first place. And so let's if we were to just kind of at a 30,000 feet view look at those what those eight struggles were, we kind of understand that okay, this is a person Bhagavat. Wow, this person has done so much just to share the nectar of Krishna consciousness. So when Srila Prabhupada came here and he was intensely searching for a place to spread the message, he came across a gentleman by the name Hartman, who was willing to lend him a place. So he had two floors in the place that he owned in New York City. And according to the dollar value in those times, the value of that place was about $100,000. And so Srila Prabhupada really wanted this place because it had two floors. And he envisioned it like one of the floors for Kirtan and Prasad, one of the floors could be a temple hall. And so he approached Tirtha Maharaj, his friend in India, to approach the prime minister so the funds could come in. And where would the funds come from? So then he approached his friend Sumati Morarji, who had originally given him the Jaladuta ticket to send funds. He told her that I'm building a beautiful temple for Gopalji. Why don't you send me these funds? And unfortunately, when that happened, he'd received no responses from either of them, neither Sumati Morarji nor Tirtha Maharaj. And so the first attempt failed. Then in the second attempt, he came across one Mr. Singhania. And what Mr. Singhania said to him is, what are you talking about? 100,000? I'll give you 700,000. But I want an exquisite temple. But I want it just for my community, just a very private space focused around limited group of people. And so Srila Prabhupada said, we should open our hearts and we should share it with maximum people. But then I understand your concern. So let's work together. We can have one of the floors dedicated to massively spreading the art. We can have it for Katha, we can have it for Kirtan, and we can dedicate one floor exquisitely for your community, your beautiful temple. But Mr. Singhania did not like the idea and he rejected. So the second attempt failed. The third attempt, Srila Prabhupada wrote back to his book publisher back in India, saying that, hey, I have left my copies with you, so you can distribute that and get money. If you can send that, then I will be able to build a beautiful temple here. The book publishers responded back to him saying that these days no one is interested in spiritual literature. And whatever books you have given us, we in fact want to return them back to you. So his third attempt was also massively failed. Then, as a fourth attempt, he went back to Mr. Hartman and he said that your property is lying unoccupied, it's vacant anyways, and you have to pay taxes on that. Why don't I pay the taxes for you? You just let me use it for my programs. But then Hartman rejected that proposal as well. So that again failed. As a fifth attempt, the then Prime Minister of India, Lal Bahadur Shastri, was scheduled to visit the US through Russia. And Srila Prabhupada said, okay, great, this is an amazing opportunity. I'm going to meet the Prime Minister himself and get the funds cleared so I can build a temple. Unfortunately, the then Prime Minister left his body in Russia itself, so he never made it to the US. And so the fifth attempt failed. As a sixth attempt, the new Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi, was approached by Tirtha Maharaj on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. And what she said is that the money can come from the US to India, but cannot go from India to US. So you will have to figure out your own ways to build a temple there. We won't be able to help you. And so here we see that now the sixth attempt has failed. As a seventh attempt, a brahmachari from one of the Gaudiya mutts reached out to Srila Prabhupada saying, I'm more than willing to help. Let me jump into action and help you. And Srila Prabhupada, out of the kindness of his heart, said, as a matter of etiquette, you should first check with your spiritual master if you helping me directly is good for him. And when that brahmachari checked with his spiritual master, uh, his spiritual master said, you have a lot of seva here, which you are busy with. You'd rather just focus on that. And so that attempt failed too. Finally, Srila Prabhupada came across a man in New York called David, who agreed to give half of his space to Srila Prabhupada as an eighth attempt. Srila Prabhupada got that space and he continued writing his manuscripts there. One of the nights, David was heavily drugged and stoned, and he came with a gun and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm going to kill you. Srila Prabhupada had a lot of hope from David. In fact, one of his letters he writes back to India, he said, I want to make David first Hare Krishna Brahmana in the US. But David showed a gun, and Srila Prabhupada had no other option but to pick up his trunk and his typewriter and just escape the place as fast as he could. He literally ran to the street. When he reached the street, he writes in his diary, he didn't know whether to go left or right because all his eight attempts to just secure a basic place to preach Krishna consciousness had failed. So the first year, the whole entire year, Krishna stripped away everything from Srila Prabhupada. That's when the Paramatma inspired him, finally as the ninth one, to go to Mike and Jane, Mukunda, then afterwards Mukunda and Janaki, and who then arranged the 22nd Avenue. So what do we learn from this example is Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, instructed him to go to the West and preach. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. So he came out of Vrindavan, his comfort zone, to please his spiritual master because he has realized how, by the mercy of the spiritual master, one can fulfill the life's purpose. And through his example, through Srila Prabhupada's example, we also understand that in our spiritual lives, as we go through the day-to-day grind, we must consciously try to meditate and endeavor coming out of our comfort zones. In Srila Prabhupada's situation, the comfort zone was being in the Vrindavan temple. In our situations, the comfort zone is something else that we all know. And in our own ways, we should keep endeavoring to the extent possible to progress in spiritual life. And really pleasing spiritual master comes down to two things. One is the internal and one is the external. The internal is we imbibe the principles of Krishna consciousness in our own hearts, and that way we make our lives meaningful. And the external is we share these gifts with others so that they benefit from it. Just like we have an amazing example of His Grace Adi Purusha Prabhu here attending this call. He's been doing food distribution for decades now at this point. So we see how the heart becomes so giving and merciful when you practice this and you're trying to please your spiritual master. In fact, one of the MLK quotes that comes to my mind when we whenever we talk about spiritual life is, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Uh, but whatever you do, you have to keep moving. And spiritual life is similar. Uh, we all, in our own situations, in our own hearts, know what is our comfort zone, and we all know what is our stretch zone. Of course, it's always important to have a balance, which is why it is important to stay in touch with the devotees regularly, so we understand uh, if our analysis of comfort zone and stretch zone is healthy enough. Because of course, at the end of the day, we don't want to get burnt out, but then we also don't want to just stay in the comfort zone. We want to continually keep progressing. So therefore, it is important. And I'll end with one similar incident where Srila Vyasadeva, now who we were describing, he also has a conversation with Srila Narada Muni in which he presents his own analysis, because after writing all the Vedas, he was still unsatisfied in his heart, dissatisfied in his heart. And he reaches out to Narad Muni with his own analysis and he says, oh, dear spiritual master, I feel I am dissatisfied because I haven't sufficiently glorified the Supreme Lord. Is this correct? And then Narad Muni says, yes, that is correct. Please glorify the Lord. And then he writes Srimad Bhagavatam, after which he really feels satisfied. So in our own lives, we should also consult with our mentors, our friendly circles of devotees that we feel uh, trusted among, and continually keep progressing. But that's the lesson we get from this chapter. I know we have to leave a few minutes, so I'm leaving. If anyone has any questions, concerns, feedback, comments, please feel free to share.
Wow. Asim Govinda Prabhu, wonderful class. You took us all across the Shastra, all across Srila Prabhupada's life. Thank you so much for that.
So time
Thank
being,
you.
thank you, Prabhu.
Adi Purusha Prabhu, did Asim Govinda sufficiently glorify Krishna in his class?
I think I failed it. And the Purush Prabhu's not.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We're just basking in the nectar you're pouring out. Wonderful. And we appreciate the basic point that you made, that Srila Prabhupada accepted austerity. He voluntarily put himself in a precarious position with his motivation to please his spiritual master and also to benefit others. And in one conversation, a devotee was telling Srila Prabhupada, we see you want us to be Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada said, no. The Babaji sitting on the bank of Radhakund chanting his rounds day after day, decade after decade. He's being Krishna conscious. But if you want to be my disciple, I'm asking you to chant 16 rounds and then vigorously preach. I'm asking you not to be Krishna conscious, but to give Krishna consciousness. And that was Srila Prabhupada's intention. And he felt Krishna was telling him, there must be a place. I was reading in the Lila Amrita, there must be a place where people can come and take prasadam and regularly hear. And this way they'll be guided and nourished to, take up devotional service with a full heart. And there's one, I don't know, there's only a minute left. There's one story they tell about
7 minutes. Feel free. 7 minutes, Adipusha. Yeah.
They tell about a man who set up a tightrope across Niagara Falls. You know that? You know what a tightrope? It's a rope, they walk on the rope, So Niagara Falls is very, very, very tall. And it came from the US side to the Canadian side. And crowds and crowds of people came to watch him walk across very high in the air with a pole. He's walking across. And before he went, he said, can I do it? What do you think? Everybody, yes, you can do it. You can do it. And he went across, and it was very dramatic. And there were television cameras and crowds of people on the US side and on the Canadian side. And when he got to the other side, everybody was like, yes, wonderful, you did it, you did it. He said, now I'm going back, and I'm going to go blindfolded. He said, do you think I can do it? And everybody said, yes, you can do it, you can do it. So he went across blindfolded. And it was later in the day, it was windy, the rope was swaying, and it was, very, very scary. And he got all the way to the other side. And everybody was cheering and weeping and clapping and congratulating him. He said, now I'm going back one more time. And this time I'm going to go blindfolded, and I want someone to sit on my shoulders while I'm going across. And he said, do you think I can do it? You can do it, you can do it, you can do it. He said, okay, who's going to sit on my shoulders? No one volunteered. The thing is, Prabhupada did something, and he's asking us, Mahajani Ena Katasa Panta, to follow in his footsteps, to give ourselves wholeheartedly to Krishna's mission, and to persevere, no matter what the obstacles, no matter what the amount of time it would take, to do what he did, to carry on. He's passed the torch to us. He left it to us. There's unlimited amount of people to be cared for and reached out to and rescued. And so we want to, by the grace of the spiritual master, on the instruction of the spiritual master, let us desire and endeavor to give Krishna consciousness. And it's going to cost us everything. But if we do our humble best, from whatever position we're in right now, Krishna is pleased. But let's do our very best.
What if I'm not exactly Krishna conscious? What if my mind is all over the place? What am I gonna give?
You can come down to the fourth ring of hell with me and Nanda Bihari, and then you'll give up your nonsense.
Well, that's a very good question. And we remember even Saraswati, Malati's little daughter, when she was 5 years old. They were looking out the window and they saw she was talking to one man. Do you know who Krishna is? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada said, just see, she is Guru. So whatever we've got, whatever tiny bit of strength or intelligence or, whatever. And when they said, Prabhupada, you opened so many temples, you printed so many books, you made so many disciples. And he said, if you want to say what I did, what did he say, Asim? I repeated what I heard from my spiritual master. That's what I did. The result may or not be there externally, but let us repeat what we've heard from our spiritual master, even if we can only remember one sentence. Whatever we can, and Krishna will be pleased. That's the point, right?
Absolutely. I think you've said it aptly, Adi Purusha Prabhu. Very, very grateful to your words, I think, to Anand Bihari Prabhu's
Repeating
question.
what I heard from my spiritual master. I'm only repeating what I heard from my spiritual master. The glories to Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Adi makes stuff up all the time, so don't believe him.
No,
That's
but that's it.
what we said just now. We didn't make up. We were praying to Prabhupada. What should I say? How could you contribute? How could I improve on this wonderful class that he just gave? I said, Prabhupada, whatever you like. And that's what Prabhupada gave me. I believe that's where it came from.
Certainly, certainly. Thank you so much, Prabhu, and thank you very much, Chandraji Jaya Prabhu and Henry Prabhu for encouragement. Narottam Nitai Prabhu, yes, the story, all those 8 failures that Srila Prabhupada went through, they actually are, they appear in different sections of the Leelamritam. Yes. And yes, Anand Bihari Prabhu, to your question, just adding to what Adi Purusha Prabhu very rightly shared with us. I think it's a great question. Actually, all of us go through it. Life catches on, and in the day-to-day grind, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and not think about, the immediate priority becomes just to even just to manage the comfort zone properly. What to talk about going out of the comfort zone? So how do we navigate that is by attaching ourselves to the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. And so often attaching ourselves to the person Bhagavat is in many ways easier because we can see their example, senior devotees or inspirations or role models that we can see and follow in the footsteps and associate with. And then that way, we also get a deeper meaning to life, and we are able to think through, and our maturity and intelligence in Krishna consciousness through the years improves, because of which we gain the understanding of how to increasingly do more and more seva. But that's just as I'm just repeating the words of what I've heard. I'm myself nowhere close to perfect. I'm struggling and also endeavoring on that. But yes, that's what I've heard on that side. Bhima Prabhu, I believe your hand is raised. That's a question, comment.
It's an interjection.
Yes, it's never a comment. I just interject over what other people are saying. Oh, geez. I'm not going to try to be philosophical here, but it is amazing that Lord Chaitanya said that we take on Krishna consciousness right where we're at. We can't make any external adjustments unless our internal adjustments are made. And then Krishna does all the external. We choose a plan, a service, a vision that coincides with Prabhupada's plan and vision. And then Krishna directs our steps. So we don't have to worry, am I doing the right thing or not? As long as our heart is in the right place. Just keep our hearts in the right place. And as long as the heart is in the right place, and that is, of course, that rascal butter thief, if your heart is in the right place, then Krishna will take care of directing exactly how your day, because that's all we have to worry about is today, not tomorrow. If we just worry about today, it's sufficient. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anand Bihari.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Okay, darshan time. Turn on your cameras, please. We need as many cameras as possible. Thank you, Venetia. Gentlemen, please. Karen, Hare Krishna. Annabelle, good to see you.
Wow, buttery. Shri Shri Radha Muridara Gora Chandana Su Bhagavana Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Asim Govinda Prabhu Ki Jai. What a wonderful class. He said everything he knew, I guess. Maybe he knows more. Okay. So I'm staring at the blank screens. I'm grateful to be here. I'm satisfied with that. With Uppercut Henry. Okay, Adi's entering the room. Let's see. Adi Purusha Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Okay, Karen says Hare Krishna. All right, should we finish the yagya? Krishna Kumari, what's the number of the most important verse? Okay, that's for Asim Govinda. I'll text him. I'll let you know. I'll put that in the WhatsApp group. The most important verse. Adi Purusha Prabhu, what's the most important verse? Krishna Kumari is asking. Unmute yourself.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna. Yeah, but
Yes.
it's interesting. Prabhupada was asked that question and he gave a different answer at different times. One time in Dallas at the Gurukul, he said, when one understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities. Somebody else, another time, Sarvadharma Pritya. I don't know. I because he answered it many different ways. I'm not. Huh? We can't hear you.
Maybe Krishna Kumari was asking about what today's speaker said was the most important verse. I don't know if the speaker's still on.
Can you put this in the case? I'm trying to talk on the phone. Sorry. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we'll find out. Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. Thank you very much. Thank you for jumping on Prabhupada's shoulders and trusting
All glories to Prabhupada.
in your guru's instruction.
It's a little
Thank you.
scary. It's not easy to be good, but the association of devotees is helpful. I've had many times been asked to do something, and I thought, now how in the world? Where go there? Go where? Do what? But we try. Krishna helps us. You're right.
Yeah. And when the guru gives an instruction, he also gives a potency to get it done.
Good point.
Isaiah,
Doesn't
Annabelle.
go any further than that.
Hold on, Adipusha Prabhu. Hold on. We're gonna have Isaiah finish the yagya, or Annabelle, or Karen. All three of them at the same time. Thank you, family. Thank you very much. Thank you. We love you. We need you. We wish you a wonderful Sunday. Give it to Krishna. Give it to the Guru. Give it to Das. Okay. Hare Krishna. Take care.